What are we gonna do when we get back?
What are we gonna do when we get back?
I take a shower and hit the rack.
Take a shower and hit the rack.
Welcome to Charlie Mike. If you're a combat veteran with an entrepreneurial bug and want to know what highly successful combat veteranpreneurs are doing to transform their sacrifice and experience to create their visual reality, then this is dedicated to your inspiring and fulfilling future. And now your host, Dwayne Paro.
No way, gotta run, feet, lots of fun.
Invest in Yourself ebook is my free gift to you for listening to the show and becoming part of the CO Nation. To receive your free gift, please go to landmarklifecoaching.com. Thank you for joining us on this episode. There are so many veterans with the core strengths to become successful entrepreneurs and continue to make a huge positive impact on our country. Here we highlight the amazing successes of combat veteranpreneurs. Combat veterans for the purpose of this show are soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen who have served the United States in wars, campaigns, and in theater on foreign soil or hostile waters. Our guest today is Christopher Davidson. Chris enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1993. His initial training was in aviation ordnance, which put him on a path to support various high-level units such as the famous Thunderbolts, which led to various deployments in both Bosnia-Herzegovina and in the Persian Gulf. His next assignment saw him climb through the enlisted ranks to fill senior NCO in charge positions for ordnance and quality assurance with various units. Chris pursued and acquired his private pilot license, private helicopter training, multiple personal decorations, and a bachelor's degree in professional aeronautics and aviation safety from Embry-Riddle University. The culmination of all these achievements led to Chris becoming an officer. He received training to become a Cobra pilot and served various deployments in Operation Iraqi Freedom, amassing nearly 1,000 hours of combat flight time. In Chris's final assignments, he served in various headquarters positions with Manpower and Reserve Affairs in Quantico, Virginia. He completed his military career as a major. During his military career, Chris was involved in a couple entrepreneurial efforts to get his feet wet for his future after the military. He is currently assessing various entrepreneurial endeavors that are of interest to him. All right, Chris, well, welcome to the show and thank you for being a guest.
Hey, thanks, Dwayne. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have you tell our loyal listeners all about your journey from a combat veteran to a successful entrepreneur. I got to see the full length of Chris's bio, and it is absolutely amazing, the experience and the path that he was on in the Marine Corps. I'm always excited when I see an individual that goes in as enlisted and is able to make that crossover into becoming an officer. Chris, before we get into your entrepreneurial experience, can you please give our audience an overview of your military experience?
Okay, I can just kind of break down some things that the bio doesn't get into as well. Is first 4 years is standard deployed all the time with a couple of F-18 squadrons. And I knew I wanted a college degree, and by the grace of God, the Monitor had a non-deploying position for me in San Diego. And that's where I was able to go out to San Diego, get my college degree, get my private pilot's license, get my helicopter training, and a few other odds and ends. And this was during that time I was like, okay, I want to fly, and I want to fly for the Marine Corps. So that's where the bug got me on knowing that this was the route I wanted to take. So did that. Got my degree finished up at the same time that I completed my enlistment, and I actually joined the officer corps through a regular commissioning source like anybody would outside in college. So I was definitely a unique in that, coming from the enlisted ranks of 8 years of enlisted time and then going to OCS for the full 10-week course, where most prior enlisted only do a 6-week course or something to that effect. Then they went right through flight school. I happened to go through flight school when there were no pilots waiting Pensacola, and I actually graduated TBS early to start my flight training. Went through that, with no good time down in Pensacola of sitting on the beach waiting to start flight school of any portion of it. Just rolled right into it, one thing after another, and then I was out in the fleet as a second lieutenant flying Cobras out there on the West Coast. Did that for quite a few years, and then coming up towards the end of it, after 9 years of flying or so, I went into headquarters and did the Manpower Reserve Affairs. Basically, I was managing how many pilots the Marine Corps needs and what flavor pilots we needed. And it was really interesting seeing the big picture and working the big gears, if you will, on how that big green machine just keeps on working. My entrepreneurial experience has been littered kind of throughout, and so if you want to ask me about it, how do you want to get into that, Dwayne?
Yeah, no, just to step back a second, I think you brought us some really good points on how you were able to get your degree while you were in. I think, one of the hard things, especially the past, many years here with all of the different conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan, it's hard for individuals who are, in like the Marine Corps or the Army in particular, where your boots on the ground and, forward deployed so much that, when you get that opportunity to get that degree, that you just kind of grab that, seize that opportunity when it's there, because, it will pay off in your future. And so I think that was very, forward looking of you to see that opportunity and say, this, I need to take this opportunity while it's here.
Absolutely. And that was something that I was even able to do while I was deployed. When I was on the USS America, we were providing support for Bosnia. And I would they actually brought college professors onto the ship, and I was one of the few people that was actually taking the college courses they offered while we were underway. So there was never an opportunity I missed to get education. Even though I didn't know I wanted a degree at that time, I knew that I didn't want to pass up an opportunity to seek self-improvement, even if it was just a history course, because that was one course I didn't have to take later.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of being an entrepreneur too, is you have to be a lifelong learner, and you have to be willing to continue to evolve your skills and your knowledge. Just, a lot of times just to kind of stay up with the trends, depending on what industry you're in. But a lot of them, trends change, and you have to pivot, and you have to be ready to be able to accept those challenges and those changes. And so that's the right mindset to be able to do that. And I also like the fact that you were forward thinking enough to see that this opportunity to work at the headquarters level and experience the manpower aspect of the field that you had worked in for so many years, and that it gives you the ability to relate to how, like you said, how does that big machine really run, even if you're an entrepreneur, because you're going to be touching all the knobs, all the gears to make that machine run. And so having that experience is absolutely critical.
I learned a lot in how big organizations run, and it gave me a glimpse of, I kind of equate it to what a Microsoft or a large company kind of operates at a much slower pace than a small startup, scrappy entrepreneurial company. And you got to figure out how you're going to manage the company that you want to start. Yeah. Unless you come in to a few $1 million, you're going to start up as a scrappy entrepreneurial small business. But that's where you make it your baby, and you love it, and you begin to create something that is yours.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And even in my military experience, I was in the Air Force, but I was at a base, and then I was deployed over for Operation Southern Watch during that time period, and then I came back to the States and got a special duty assignment to the Pentagon. And I'll tell you, what a drastic difference between operating in the Pentagon versus operating on a base. When I was on the base, I only knew how life was from that perspective. And when I went to the Pentagon, now I'm sitting at the ultimate headquarters of any organization, and you can see all the top brass running around doing amazing things, and it just gives you such a different appreciation. And you can it just allows you to have a broader understanding and respect for what really goes in to make something run. And if you're an entrepreneur, those insights are critical, so that as you're growing your business, like you said, if it's just, a scrappy 1 to 3 person, mission that may never even be more than that, you have that appreciation for what the other organizations that you're dealing with have to go through just to get things done, where when you're 1 to 3 guys or gals working something, you can be a lot more agile and you can be a lot more, kind of off the cuff in your normal routine. But boy, when you get into those big environments, the wheels turn a lot slower.
They do, and I understand that they've got to, because they've just got so many moving parts. But I think that Apple is one of those prime examples. It used to be the young, scrappy company, and now it's the big behemoth, and it kind of shows in some of their products now. I'm a big Apple fan. Don't want to knock anybody out there, but you can see it's just not moving as dynamic as it did 15, 20 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great example, because they were popping products out like crazy. You're just like, how can they have that many innovative things just sitting there waiting to come out? Sometimes 2 or 3 at a time. And now we're like, okay, we're waiting for just the next iPhone, or the next iPad or whatever. And really, it's not new. It's just the next version, where before they're like, okay, we'll have an iPod, iPad, iPhone, and on down the line, right? And so, yeah, and then as it got so big, and they're, big in all respects, that absolutely it changes that. So Chris, can you tell our listeners some about some entrepreneurial experiences that you've had? I know, you've done some stuff before you got out of the military that we had talked about prior to the interview, and as well as that you're kind of looking at some other things now. Just kind of give us some overview of things that you've dabbled in.
Absolutely, and I've been grateful to be in a position that I've been able to do a little more than dabble. So my first business was a construction business, and I told you, did the weird enlisted 8 years, and then actually got out knowing I was going to OCS about 6 months later. I went back to Nashville, Tennessee, where I was from, and I started a construction business. Wasn't that I was set out, I'm going to get out of the Marine Corps and start a construction business. I just went home and I saw an opportunity. And that's where you've got to remain flexible. If you don't know, if you're not determined and passionate about whatever it is that, like this is the business I want to be in life, then just remain open and flexible. And then when you find that niche, you jump into it. I was actually able to produce enough revenue for that 6-month period to more than cover any loss of pay I was getting from the Marine Corps. Actually was making more. But that was because of hard work, and there was just an opportunity there, and I took it. It was a lot of long nights, a lot of long weekends where I was just working by myself, taking care of projects that other companies didn't want. But I didn't care, because I was there to, improve and enjoy the work I was doing, but also to make money. And and that was a derivative of basically just being available and not saying no to anything. So I did that, I closed up shop right before I went to OCS, and I went to OCS, and fast forward, 15 years later, I'm at Headquarters Marine Corps, and it was a fantastic job, but the job ended, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon every day, and I kind of got a little bored. Okay, I got a lot bored. I enjoy the challenges. So I ran into somebody said, "Hey, what do you think about opening a business?" So I started looking at what business opportunities were available there in the DC area. And I started going down and searching franchises, because my vision was that I would have a absentee ownership type scenario, and I thought a franchise would be a great option, because they give you a lot of stuff canned that you don't get when you're building it yourself. It comes with software, it comes with lessons learned, it comes with support. And I was like, okay. So I went down the road with quite a few different companies trying to see which one was going to be the right fit. And I ran into this one called ArcPoint. It's a fantastic company. They do drug testing, DNA testing, background investigations. And I went down the discovery process with them and said, okay, this is a good fit. Then I opened up the store in Stafford, Virginia, where people could come and do drug testing, DNA testing, and they would come in. I had several employees that would perform the test. Then I had employees going out and trying to drum up business, and then I would come in the evenings after I get off work from the Marine Corps, 4 or 5 o'clock, and see how the day was going. So that was pretty much my day every single day for an entire year. What I learned in this business, in that franchise, is that's not a absentee ownership type of event. When you do a service-based business where it's just service, and I'm not talking about service as in flipping hamburgers or in providing whatever that kind of service. I'm talking about where there's no actual product produced and it's solely based off of service. That is where the entrepreneur, the owner, has to be involved in pretty much all day-to-day operations, because that's what people resonate with. And then when you're going out there and trying to drum up business using employees to drum up your business, it just doesn't work. I have to say that the one thing I learned is you can't hire an entrepreneur. It just doesn't happen. You're either an entrepreneur or not. I went through several employees trying to find somebody who was a good salesman who also cared as much as I did. And I financially incentivized them. I wasn't there to make a dime. I just wanted to cover, pay all the bills was the goal. And so they could take pretty much all the profit at that point. But we just couldn't find the correct manager, entrepreneurial type person that could take it to the next level. So it was one of those ones. Did it for a year, massive learning experience. Good swift kicks here and there, and that's okay because I'd set myself up in a position that I would be able to recover. And so my wife and I decided, okay, let's sell it. So we were able to sell it and get out from underneath it, and it was just one thing after another of just realizing that my work ethic and the work ethic that you get from the Marine Corps is staggeringly outpaces the average population. And I don't mean that in a condescending way. It's just that we inherently, as veterans, military service members, show up on time. We, as a general rule, will do more than what's required. And I kind of expected that to be out there in the civilian world, and it's just not to the level that I was used to. And there was some big lessons learned from that.
Yeah, that's a great point because, a couple of things you had said, trying to find somebody who has the same passion as you with a business. I think, that was a great lesson learned is I don't think you'll find that anywhere because what's driving you is not driving them. And I think that's another great point on the compensation, right? You can compensate as much as you possibly can afford to, but it doesn't create that passion and it doesn't create that drive, which obviously you would see in these other things with the work ethic is, people showing up on time, people putting in the extra time no matter what, just doesn't happen.
It just doesn't. But that's okay because the way I view it and the way it's worked out is that I'm able to demonstrate a gung-ho-ness, if you will, that other people don't. And opportunities open themselves up to me because I am less risky as a future employee or a future partner because I'm showing that I've got that drive that we learned from our service.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. All right, listeners, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Landmark Life Coaching's vision is to be the nation's premier coaching partner for inspiring and empowering those in transition. They partner with courageous groundbreakers and transitioning veterans to create fulfilling and empowering futures that they desire. They have partnered with various entrepreneurs and transitioning veterans to leverage their core strengths and implement the framework for the future they always dreamed of. Could you or anyone you know benefit from a success partner to bring clarity to your future or their future? If so, please check out landmarklifecoaching.com for more information and charliemikepodcast.com for the Charlie Mike Podcast, showcasing the successes of combat veteranpreneurs. Okay, we're back with Chris Davidson talking about his amazing entrepreneurial experience. Chris has had a construction business for a period of time, and then he had owned into a franchise for a period of time. So he's almost really on my serial entrepreneur label now, because he's really been able to step out in very vastly different types of entrepreneurial endeavors, which has clearly given him a wide range of experience on top of all of his military experience. So, Chris, I got to ask you, what was that point that you knew being an entrepreneur was meant for you, given that, you were getting out of the military, you had done some entrepreneurial work, but, a lot of people come out and the first thing they think is, I got to go get that corporate job, right? And that doesn't seem to be the path that you have taken.
No, I definitely, it's not something that's made a calling for me, if you will, to just work for somebody else. I'm grateful to be in that opportunity that I've been able to just kind of open myself up. I'm going down 3 different discovery processes right now on what's next to open. I live in Nashville, Tennessee right now, and it's one of the fastest growing cities in the South. It is just booming here. So there are a lot of opportunities, but it's one of those ones where, what are my opportunity costs? I have 2 young kids. My wife is climbing the corporate ladder where she's at, and I have to make some tough decisions on what kind of quality of life I want to live, how much money is it really worth to me to go down this venture. And it's resources is what I'm coming up short on, and I'm not talking financial resources, I'm talking people. One of the businesses I really want to open up here in Nashville is a barbershop. We have a significant demand for barbershops, a really nice one. And there's no barbers here. I've got ad after ad out there looking for people that want to, cut hair professionally. And there's just not a lot, because we brought in a lot of industry, but we haven't brought in the support network yet. And I say support as in ancillary services, with a growing economy.
Yeah, the infrastructure, right, to support all that. Yeah. That's an interesting thing. Yeah, because I agree. I mean, it's funny. I mean, I live in around the DC area, and there's a lot of little barbershops, but there's only so many I would go to. And I think you brought up a great point in a service like that, is when I walk into the one I go to, it has a very professional appearance. And I don't mean from a, like being on the cutting edge of the craziest haircuts. It's, you go in, it's well taken care of. The place looks great. It looks professional, and the guy has multiple locations all over the area, and I've been to a few of them, and they all look really good. Where you go into some of them, and it just doesn't represent very well, and then their barbers seem to be on a rotating basis turnover. And in this other one, they tend to be there for years, which is unusual in that kind of, seems to be unusual to me in that kind of business if you're not the owner. And so yeah, that's an interesting area that you're looking into. I definitely see where there would be a huge need for that.
That's just one of them. The other one I'm going down through is I'm doing a conversation with several drone operators. I actually own drones and operate drones commercially, And I'm looking for that niche because there's a lot of different cameras and tools that are out there that most people just don't even know what drones are really capable of.
Mm.
Take cattle. You can use a drone to fly over your herd of cattle and figure out which one's in heat and ready to impregnate.
Mm.
So most farmers, of course, don't know that. And that's one of those ones like, okay, where's that niche? Because this is one of the, 2017, if you don't get in on the drone business in 2017, you're a day late and a dollar short. This is the year to do it. So I'm looking at that as that's definitely an option as far as, but, is it thermal imaging? There's quite a few different avenues. And this goes back to where I've said, hey, you've got to remain open to the opportunity that knocks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the whole niche is where you can make money, right? You got to be able to, as an entrepreneur, know what those trends are and when to be in something and when not. And I totally agree with the drone aspect. I mean, you just see it, in the news a lot, but, my background having been in the Air Force and, I work for a federal aerospace engineering firm. We have a unmanned air systems group, and, we had a fixed wing drone for a while. Now we're into the rotary drone, and we've even done tests, like you said, for farmers. They wanna map out their whole crop, right? And so we've run drones over 2,000 acres for them as a test, right? So they can see things. And so yeah, I totally see that as a niche area that, like you said, though, if you're not in now, it's one of those opportunities where you're kind of going to be playing catch up for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. With the FAA coming up with the laws back in August or September of last year, establishing, hey, this is how you get your license and this is how you go make money.
Mm-hmm.
I jumped on that back in the fall and started going after it and seeing there's some opportunities there. So it's been real exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. And with your pilot background, it makes total sense that you would be able to play in that space as well. So.
It definitely makes it an easier sell when talking to the customer. And also, I haven't applied for them yet, but there are FAA waivers you can get for flying at night and flying other things. And I think I can demonstrate flying safely based off my history.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, so those are some amazing opportunities, and I love how diverse they are too. Like you said, just being open and flexible to what you're going to do, because that's the exciting part of being an entrepreneur is you're not stuck in that. Okay, this is what I do. This is what I'll do for 40 years and get the pin and the watch and then retire. It's it's exciting stuff. It's kind of leading edge. I mean, even a barbershop can be leading edge. I mean, you can really take it to that next level where it's an experience for people, not just a place they go to get their haircut. So yeah, those are exciting. So what are some tools or resources that you've used or that you think really stand out to you for anybody who's really looking to grow as an entrepreneur?
I hate to go back, this is such a crutch, but it's this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Mm.
I'm sure you've read it. If
Mm-hmm.
you haven't, highly recommend it. It was written back in the 50s, and it is a fantastic book on learning how to communicate with people better, especially coming from a very kind of open, honest dialogue that we're used to in the veteran world, and applying that to civilian speak, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a great tool. That book has just served me many times over.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the thing. There are some resources out there, such as that. Napoleon Hill. He's got a 13-part series, and that, I mean, that's been out for a long time. And I mean, the videos out there are in black and white. But the funny thing is, the guy was so far ahead of his time when he produced this that it's amazing how relevant it is still today. So it's a great point. Don't overlook resources that have been out there for a long time. It's not always about that latest social media tool or that latest website or something like that, because you got to get down to the core skills like communication to be able to drive your business successfully and build relationships. So yeah, I mean, I think that's great advice for our listeners. So Chris, this has been an amazing conversation. As we're running out of time here, I wanted to give you an opportunity to let our listeners know how they can get in contact with you or learn about what you have going on.
Okay, my email address is christopher.b.davidson@outlook.com. I look forward to any emails or any ideas that anyone has out there. I'm always looking for another adventure.
Great. Well, thank you for being a guest on the show, and more importantly, thank you for your service to our country.
My pleasure, Dwayne. Happy to be here.
Remember, loyal listeners, we are the home of the free because of the brave.
Thank you for tuning in to Charlie Mike Podcast with Dwayne Paro. Our objective is to bring successful veteranpreneurs to help inspire and provide insight into what helped them become successful, with the hopes you can take away various strategies you can implement in your entrepreneurial journey. Visit us on iTunes, leave us a rating and review, and let us know what you thought of the show. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Hoorah!